Okay, let's look at 1.6. Question number 1. It says, suppose the calculator manufacturer has a total cost of 34x plus 6,800. Total revenue is 68x. What's the equation for a profit? Well, the first thing you got to know here is that each one of these numbers has meaning. This one is the selling price of the item times x will create revenue. This one is the price or the cost to make one, and this is your fixed cost, the cost that you pay for the building, the chairs, the tables, the cash register, all that. And so if you know all that, you can immediately figure out the profit function by just subtracting the two. Remember, you want to distribute that negative sign here and combine like terms, and there you go. Notice cost has a addition of the fixed cost to the cost, because when you're adding fixed cost, it's a bill. It's going to increase your costs positively. Notice here, you have the same fixed cost number, but it's a negative because it's taking away from your profit. It's a bill you must pay. So it pulls down your profit. Now B says, what if you have how much profit on 3,000 items? Well, you plug in 3,000 in for X, and you get 95,200. Number 3, same thing. They give you the 2 and they ask you what's the profit. Yeah. So you say cost minus profit. Remember to distribute that negative. Combine like terms. There you go. Well, what's the profit on 30 items? Well, when you plug it in, you actually get a negative number, which is a loss. Okay. And then they ask you, how can you avoid losing money? Well, if you let profit equal 0, that's exactly the point where you don't have money and you don't lose money. So setting profit equal to 0, solving it, you get 50 items. So that's how many items you must sell to break even or to not lose any money. Okay, number 7. Number 7, they give you, they give you revenue is 27x, and they ask you what is the slope? Well, it's the number in front of x. Then they ask you what's the marginal revenue? Well, that's the same thing. It is the slope of the revenue function. It's the amount of money for sale of 1 unit. And then C, what's the revenue received from selling one item more than 50? Well, the 51st item costs $27. And what if you sold 100? What is the price of the next one? Well, it's $27 more. It doesn't matter where it is. It will always add up the same way every time. Number 5, a linear cost function is given there, and they say, what is the slope? Well, the slope is 5. Okay, and then they say, what's the c-intercept? Well, the c-intercept is found by looking at the constant there. Then they ask you marginal cost, same thing as slope. Cost to make one item is $5. And then part C asks you, what are the fixed costs? Well, it's the $250. Then D, how are the answers related in parts A, B, and C? Well, you know marginal cost and slope are the same thing. And you know fixed cost and c-intercept are the same thing. Number 9, they give you cost and revenue, ask you for the profit, so we know how to do that, subtract. Then they ask you what's the slope of the profit function, it's 22. Then they ask you what's the marginal profit, again it's 22. Every time they use the word marginal, you think slope. Okay, and then they say interpret the marginal profit, it's the profit per item of $22. Okay, and then 11. In question 11 they say, if you have 200 units are sold, you have $3,100 profit. 250 sold, you have $6,000 profit. Find the marginal profit. Okay, so you do y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. You do the slope. Then they want you to find the profit function. So you plug in your slope in there, and you plug in your y coordinate from there. You plug in your x coordinate to there, and you multiply each one by 58. You add 6,000, and there you go. There's your profit function, and your marginal profit is 58. Okay, 13. 13 says, Their fixed cost for selling helmets is $6,600. The cost to make one helmet is $35. Selling price is $60. So you know your cost and revenue right there. It's always selling price times X, cost to make one times X plus fixed cost. Okay, so you know each one. Profit is simply found by taking revenue minus cost. Okay, now D says find C of 200, R of 200, and P of 200 and interpret it. Same thing for E is 300. So C of 200 is this number when you plug it in. And it means the cost to make 200 units is $13,600. Well, plugging in 200 into revenue, you get this. That's the revenue from selling 200 units is $12,000. Profit, you plug it in there, and you get profit from selling 200 is minus $1,600. You're losing money. Okay, so now let's plug in 300. Now your cost of making 300 units is $17,100. The revenue from selling 300 units is $18,000. And now your profit is a positive number. It's positive $900. Now you're making money. F says what's the marginal profit? It's just the number in front of X. And what does that mean? It's the $25 profit from selling one item. 15, they give you a chart here in the book, and they say label each function correctly. Well, revenue always goes through the origin. Cost always has a fixed cost intercept. That's how you can tell the difference between. So you can tell the difference between revenue and cost when revenue goes through the origin, because when you sell 0 items, you make 0 revenue. But cost is different. If you make 0 items, you still have to pay your fixed costs. So you can always tell which one is cost and which one's revenue by looking here. So cost is that one, revenue is that one, and where do they cross? Right here at the break-even point, which is 403,000. Okay, and you need to sell 400 units to break even. And then D says estimate the marginal cost, and what I did was I looked at the chart. Okay, let me focus that. Alright, so you take this guy, and if you want to go from here to here, you're at 0.00 and 403,000. So you can use those 2 points to find your slope. And this is 2,000, and you use the point 403,000. And use those two, and you can get a good, accurate answer for what is your slope. Okay, 19. 19 says the manufacturer's belt is sold for $12, so that's 12x. Fixed cost $1,600. Variable cost per unit is 8. So 8x plus 1,600 and 12x. Okay, so write those two out. We did it. Find the break-even point. You set them equal to each other and solve. Notice the break-even point is not a point. It's just one number. It's kind of confusing. All right, 23. Electronics, they say what type of sergers. They have fixed cost of $1,045. Wholesale is $10. Cost to make it is 4.5. Okay, so 10x and 4.5x plus 1,045. Find profit, you subtract to get the difference between the two. There you go. And then D says find how many you must produce and sell to break even. So another way to break even is not just revenue equals cost, but profit equals 0. So set profit equal to 0 and solve, and you get 190. 26. The company has sweatshirts and they sell them for $50 each, so that's 50x. For the cost, they say if you make 100, it's going to cost $43.60. If you make 250, it's going to cost $7,060. So the difference between the two is $18 or 18. And to find the cost, you plug in 18 there, and you got to use 1 point. I ended up using the first point. And when I get y equals this, it's really cost equals this. Find the break-even quantity. So you set them equal to each other and solve, and your quantity is 80. That will break even. Okay, 31. 31, they give you a chart here. It's not that easy to see. Okay, 31, it says how many units Q are demanded. So here's your demand graph. And your Q, you don't know, but you know your P is 100. So here's 100, and where do you hit? Right there. That's 600. Okay? How many Q are supplied when the price is 100? So price is 100 right here. And where do you hit? Right there at 300. So if you supply 300 but you have a demand for 600, you have a shortage. Okay, number 33. Number 33 says, if the demand for a pair of shoes is given by this equation and supply is given by that, compare the quantity supplied and demand when the price is $60. So put in 60 in for each one, 60 in for each one, and you know your quantity. So when the price is $60, you have a demand of 16, but you have 25 on your shelf supplied. So you're going to have 9 extra, and you have a surplus. 36. 36, they say 2,500 at $4 each, 3,500 at $3.60 each. Find the equation. So find the slope, plug it in, simplify, and you got it. Okay, now 39. 39, they give you an equation. They say label each one as supply or demand. Alright, now you can know demand easily enough because if the price is very high, there's going to be little demand for it. So if you have a high price at 40, there's going to be 0 demand for it. But if you have a low price of 10, you're going to have a demand of 60. So this guy is your demand. Okay, as the price goes up, your demand quantity gets smaller. So the other guy has to be supply. Alright, and so then you label the point here, which is called the equilibrium point. It gives you your price and your quantity, or your price is 25 and your quantity is 30. 41 says that the price is 20. What quantity is supplied? When the price is 20, you get the supply here of 20, and you get a demand here of 40. And so if you have 40 that want to be bought and you have supplied only 20, you're going to have a shortage. Okay, 45.